Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about, I've been looking at a lot of leaders and countries' charts. As a matter of fact, when I do my world predictions, I go over so many countries to really get a sense and feel of what's going on around the world. But one kind of stood out a lot to me, and I wanted to go over his chart as well as his country's chart to see if I can better see what could be happening in the world for him and his country, who am I talking about today? Justin Trudeau, as well as I have the chart for Canada. So I'm going to put both of these charts up here and see what we can surmise over what's coming for Canada as well as for Justin Trudeau. And looking at his chart is not an easy chart. Let me just say, it looks very difficult because he has the moon and Mars in the 8th house. And let me just say, the 8th house is one of the most difficult houses of the chart. It represents deep, dark stuff. It can be very spiritual in terms of metaphysical research and analysis. And with Mars being in the 8th house, he can be a researcher. And yes, he can be pretty scientific minded, if I could say. But this is the house that deals with disgrace, humiliation, and corruption. And with both Mars and the moon together, he can be very tempted in these areas. So the reason why I thought this chart was important was basically because Rahu is transiting in Pisces and is pretty much right now over his moon and going past it. So Rahu in the sign of the moon, then eventually it's going to back up over Mars. The nodes travel backwards. And as I speak today, Rahu is exactly on his moon. And right now I am reading this at the very early February, where Rahu is at 23 degrees of Pisces in the heavens. And look at his moon, 23 degrees of Pisces. So I thought something's up and going on with Canada. And especially since the moon rules the 12th house has to do with foreign lands and countries. And there can be some great problems going on here for him personally and the country, because when I look at a leader's chart, it affects the country. So looking at that now, all at the same time, when Mars goes into Pisces, which will basically be in April, May, there can be a lot more trouble coming for him. And I looked up, and he has another year, and I didn't know this, but they can run as many times as they want for president or what he runs for as leader, which can be, a dictator after time if they keep getting on and on and on. Now, he is what we call the prime minister, but that is who runs the country in Canada. Now, let's pull up the chart for Canada down next to Trudeau's chart. And what I'm seeing is the sun and the moon. This is a very interesting chart, by the way. Sit right there with Uranus wedged between them. This country will have many unusual changes and disruptions, it looks like, with Uranus situated between both the sun and the moon. Now, another thing about this chart is that when Mars goes into Gemini, there's going to be some problems. As a matter of fact, Mars is going to station direct. That won't be till February of 2025, but that's where Canada's going to be hard hit the most. But right before that, in October, Mars is going to go through Gemini. And that's going to be where things really start to heat up here. And Canada being so close to the United States, well, the United States is about to have some major upheaval at the same time. So at the same time, the United States, the borders, Canada, everything is going to come unglued. There is something big happening, not only in the US, but in Canada too. And the leader, in the leadership, there are going to be some issues and problems. It looks very unstable for Justin Trudeau, with Rahu transiting through his 8th house on his moon and then his Mars. I don't know if there's going to be something that's uncovered about his doings that could make him look very difficult. In other words, it will be difficult for him. I have to say, there is too much going on in this chart. And going back to Canada, I happened to notice that Neptune from the chart from Canada sits at 22 degrees, 59 minutes. And the moon in Justin Trudeau's chart sits at 23 degrees, 49 minutes. It's less than a degree right on top of the moon. There is some great deception. I'm not quite clear on what this deception's about, but I know there's deception. There's things that Trudeau is either keeping from others, or there's just something he doesn't see that's going on in Canada. But there is a great deception. And there is so much to be said and seen in this chart. But what I like to do is to bring to your attention what is going to be happening in the very near future. And that is now. There's things that are coming up and surfacing concerning what he is up to and what he's doing in Canada, because it's in the 8th house of secrets. It's coming up. A lot is going on here. And Canada is such a beautiful country. I love Canada. I love the people there. And there's a lot to be said for what's going to be happening, because looking at the chart for Canada, transiting Saturn is opposing Mars. And transiting Saturn, when it begins to station this year, will be around 24, 25 degrees of Aquarius. This is in the 6th house. Let me just say this. There is a strong possibility that Canada will have some kind of attacks. Now where, I don't know, but the country is due for something. Why? Because Saturn's on that K2 and it's in the 6th house of enemies. And it's aspecting Mars and Rahu in the 12th house of foreigners and secret enemies. So I have to say, here's what I hope. I hope Trudeau knows about what is going on behind the scenes. Maybe he's blinded to it and he needs to wake up, because there is a lot that's about to happen. I'm just going to have to say in North America. That's the United States and Canada. And it's interesting that I can see it in both the Canadian chart as well as the Prime Minister's chart, Justin Trudeau. So I'll leave it at that for now. I will keep you updated as things move on and we watch where the planets are transiting and triggering these charts of certain leaders and certain countries. So with that, all prayers, all goodness, all good intention, let's put to Canada, because it looks like they're needing it right now. So I want to close right now. If you would like to learn more about me, if you would like a reading, or if you would like to become part of my Patreon group and get very exclusive information from me, go to my website, galacticcenter.org, sign up for my free newsletter, and check out my Patreon page. And if you want to become my student, learn Vedic astrology, go to my university website, universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.